This is Outside the Round with Matt Burrill, a Raise Rowdy podcast.
My man, it's been since the pandemic. A lot of stuff has happened in both of our lives. It's 4 years ago, basically. I would assume like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We have Skinny Matt McKinney, the legend.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me.
The legend, the OG, in the round guy, back in the day, bro.
Yeah, man.
How the hell are you doing on this beautiful, beautiful day?
Dude, I've been good. It's been just one thing after the other. It's good to have a day off. Get in here and get to do this. It's not often I have a Monday off, so
yeah,
it's kind of like, this is perfect. So,
yeah, you are fucking just writing and running and gunning, huh?
been trying, man. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I'm kind of ready for October. Slows down a little bit.
Is that like when the songwriter world kind of slows down? Is like you start getting into like pre-holiday season?
It's been, I mean, I was just having a conversation with my publisher this past week. It's like, I feel like July is just dead. Everyone's on the road, and then everyone's going to the beach, and you get more cancels. Like this summer, I mean, my July was just like dead. Like, you know, so it's like, I just feel like October is a good time. I've got some things kind of blocked off on the schedule to be more intentional about taking time. So
what'd you do with all the off time? 'Cause you're not used to just, you don't sit still. Like you have to be doing something.
Yeah.
You've always been like that.
Yeah. I just, truthfully, I went kind of crazy. I don't know. It's like, you know, it would be different if I had this time, like I knew all these people were going to cancel or like these people are going to be out of town. So I guess, I mean, I played a lot of shows and like songwriter shows, and then I did
a lot of Fortnite.
I did play some Fortnite.
You played some Fortnite, bro. You on the sticks? You played in NCAA football yet?
Dude, I haven't. I've not gotten on it yet. So
that surprises me that of all people, I feel like you would have been like the first guy to have it.
Dude, truthfully, I've just never been good at, like, you can ask Maxwell or...
Oh, you're horrible at Madden.
I'm just terrible at football games. Yeah. So, I mean, I love the game, but I like playing games. If I do play video games, like games I'm good at. So, like, I'm a big golf guy. So, I play, like, a lot of PGA.
Oh, okay.
Skinny McKinney's currently #1 in the FedEx Cup.
No shit. All right.
He is.
How far into the season are we on that?
I've got 2 more tournaments left.
Okay.
So, I don't really get time to, like, sit down, and I'm not like a big gamer, but like every now and then when I get home at night and it's like, just good mindless, you know, it's pretty good for the soul.
Yeah, it's a good way to just clear your mind. It's a good way to like hang out with the boys without having to go to the bar and spend all the money that it usually costs to hang out with the boys.
Oh, totally. And you know, Dawson Edwards been coming to town, and he'll stay with me.
Oh, dude, yeah.
So,
how's he doing? I haven't seen Dawson in a minute. He's doing well?
He's doing good. Just staying busy. Signed his pub deal. I was fired up for him for that. And, he'll just come to town, and obviously still on the road a lot with Travis. But
the Trick Crew, baby.
Yeah, man. And so kind of dive into a lot of that. And he and I play a lot of golf together, and it's just kind of, you know, Mexican and golf. That's kind of like our Tuesday
Cinco,
night.
baby.
So,
Shout out Cinco. Why is Cinco the best Mexican restaurant in Nashville? Because there's a lot of them, bro. That still blows my mind. I say that to people all the time. They're like, don't you love the barbecue and this out? My buddies back home are like, bro, the barbecue's got to be so good. The fried chicken's gonna be. I'm like, bro, the Mexican food is the best part of moving to the South.
Yeah, dude.
You're loyal. I'm surprised you don't own part of Cinco with all the money you've spent there over the last 4 or 5 years that I've known you.
I know. In the month of April, I spent over $1,600 there, which I'm not proud of. I mean, it's not really being the best steward of my money.
Did we get song ideas, though?
Yeah.
It's a write-off.
Yeah.
It's a write-off.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a write-off.
So,
meet with writers. You're writing at Cinco.
A lot of publisher meetings, writers, artist meetings. But yeah, dude, it's fun. It's I love this place because I used to be a loyal goer of the one over here on Central Pike or Old Hickory.
Yeah.
And then obviously I moved into town. I live downtown now, and I was dropping a group off. They were doing like a girls' night, and I dropped a group off at the local like over a year ago in April. And I'm passing down West End. I see the sign. At the time, all it said was tacos. And I was like, that's a new Mexican spot. Naturally, I got to go try it.
Yeah.
I sat down at the end, and my bartender, Mario, came up, introduced himself for the first time. And, dude, they just treat you like family. Like, I know that sounds so dumb, but, like, as a regular, anybody who's listening who is, like, a regular of any spot, like, you like when someone knows exactly what you want to eat or exactly what drink you're going to do or, you know. But to me, the food's better. It's like they run specials. They actually offer pastor, which like
that's a level up.
None of the other Mexican Cinco's offer pastor. This one does. It's phenomenal.
Downtown location.
Yeah,
it's on West End, right?
West End, right next to Jason's Deli.
That's where we went before the Zach Top show.
Yeah, what a night! What a night! Too.
That was a long fucking night. Yeah, we had who was with us? Amy was with us.
Yeah, big group.
Amy, Dookie, Nikki.
Yeah,
I forget. Was Alana? Oh, the Gaffney girls, Mary Kate and Liz.
Yeah,
wild bunch. I think Kyle went with us.
Ago.
That was a wild bunch.
But yeah, it was. The dude, and their drinks are better. Like specials.
That's how I explain it because I'm a Las Palmas guy.
Yeah,
Las Palmas is where we started. Where me and Boudreaux talked about doing the podcast back in 2018. We sat at Las Palmas and over cheese dip, we decided let's do this podcast. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So I've always been a Las Palmas.
So it's sentimental.
Yeah, Palmas holds a special place.
Yeah.
Now, if I drank, I would be all about Cinco because you guys pound those fucking margaritas, bro. Those margarita pitchers, and I was back before anybody had cuts. Like we were going in there with like Ella, Trey, JB, Maxwell, like the whole crew would just meet up at that Cinco on Old Hickory Boulevard, right there by that motel, by my favorite barbershop, by the way, Elusive Studio. That little shopping center that's just above it.
Okay.
Where it's the head shop.
Yeah.
And
okay,
then,
yeah.
The little sees all the sketchy shit.
Yeah,
the barber shop there, those are my boys. Anas and Renee and Taz and the guys in there. Great. A lot of the Titans players actually get their haircut in there.
See,
which is wild.
Bald guy.
I know you don't need.
I shave my own.
Yeah, you haven't needed a haircut and fucking. You probably haven't needed a haircut since I've known you. You've been bald since I known you.
Yeah. Probably 6-7 years, just shave it.
Is that what you did? Did you just shave it? You were just like, fuck it one day? Because you had curly hair like I do.
Yeah.
You were a curly-haired fuck. Tall curly-haired dude.
Yeah, I was. Just got rid of it. And dude, honestly, like, I understand two sides of it, but like, being bald has never been like an insecurity of me, mine. Like, to me, it's like, I actually like enjoy it. Like, I mean, it is a little bit of upkeep. You know, you shave it 3-4 times a week, but it's like, dude, roll out of bed and just go, or like, get up and go anywhere. Like, I've never been a guy that's like, oh, I'm bald. Like, my buddies, like, they think they're doing me a disservice, like making jokes about me being bald, and I'm just like, dude, that's lame. Like, let's move on to something else. But there are other guys who, and my buddy Sonny, rest in peace, but he was one of those with like the most oddly shaped head you've ever seen. So he was bald, and dude, I mean, you'd knock his hat off in public, and you would think like there was an earthquake occurring or something. Like, you know, it's like. So I do get that aspect of being a bald man, but for me, it's never been. Like
I used to shave my head all the time. I was like a 2 on the top and like a 1 or a 0 on the side, and I thought. And I had this curly hair my whole life, and I didn't think anything of it because I would go to the barbershop. It was like a father-son thing, like my dad. I know you're close with your dad, with your parents too, but like me and my dad, it was go to Sal's barbershop in New York, and it was funny. Sal would be in there, but it'd be all these Uzbekistani guys from Queens. They'd ride up in a minivan together. So there was a guy named Shrek, there was a guy named Aaron, there was a woman named Olga, but I'd always get my head shaved because my dad was bald. So I'm like, oh, you gotta have short, you gotta have short hair. Yeah, you gotta have a short fade. And my mom and my grandmother always be like, why are you cutting your hair? You have this great curly hair. And I'd be like, no, I want to bald. Nice. My dad was like, bald is beautiful. So that was the motto I lived by. Was I always wanted to have the shaved hair, you know? And
I do miss the curls because like.
Oh, dude,
it was the best.
Dude, bro,
that's the only thing I like.
You're a fucking tall, ginormous dude, too. You with the curls on stage, just wreaking havoc in Athens, Georgia, back in the day at Sky Bar, bro. Yeah. I can only fucking imagine, bro. Lethal Weapon, wild back then. Yeah, but yeah, I like Cinco a lot, and then we go to Los Toritos. Nikki T loves that place.
Right there on Division.
No, not. Oh no, that's. Oh, maybe I'm confused. El Toro Loco. I got all these damn Mexican places. Toritos, Toros, this, that.
Yeah.
There's a place over here in Hermitage that Nikki likes going to because of their lunch specials. Okay. So now Nick has converted me to go to this place, El Toro Loco, which is the most like Nikki T. Ray's Rowdy name for a Mexican restaurant. The Crazy Bowl. Crazy Bowl. Shout out to Macon, Georgia. And we go there a lot and everything. But I was looking back. Last time we did this podcast was. It had to be about 4 years ago.
It was Boudreaux's
last episode. At your apartment on Central Pike.
During COVID.
Sitting at the table.
Yeah.
A little stoned. We got high. That was back when I had the Delta 8 sponsorship, and I was like, everybody take Delta 8, Delta 8, Delta 8. Shout out to Andrew. And to see, that was right before everybody's lives changed.
Yeah.
And our whole crew.
Yeah, and it feels like a year ago, It's like...
Does it really? It feels like it wasn't that long ago for you?
I want to say a year. I'd say it feels like 2 years ago.
Because
Because time just moves so slow here, like everything,
See, I feel like it moves fast.
Yeah.
I feel like it moves. It moves fast.
I guess that's
slow.
what I'm
It's
saying.
like a few,
Yeah.
But because at that point you hadn't had your publishing deal yet.
Yeah.
You were playing.
I was 3 or 4 months away.
Yeah.
And had no clue yet.
That was when, because I remember right before COVID, I remember you and Trey playing, or during COVID, I remember you and Trey coming and playing at Dogwood, playing around one night at Dogwood. I think it was Porchlight was doing I think Big Dan was doing, and Terry Lee Palmer were doing Porchlight over there.
Yeah.
I remember you and Trey coming and being like, these guys are tall motherfuckers. And I remember checking your IDs and whatever. And then I remember you jumping on one of our Instagram lives when I was up in Delaware.
Yeah.
And I remember you sending me the Red Balloon song that you did with Ben Chapman.
Dude, I forgot about that song.
Like, that was back in, like, the revival days.
Yeah.
And then I remember going over, I remember I had Maxwell and I had Dawson and Stephen Paul on back-to-back podcast episodes at Boudreaux's house. And Dawson was like, man, you boys should come over and watch NASCAR with me and Caleb and play Madden and come and hang out with the boys. So Maxwell and Dawson invited us over one day, and you and Trey were over there doing one of your classic Madden tournaments, and you were getting your ass whooped in Madden.
I believe it.
And Trey was dipping his fucking...
Try one of
There you
these.
go. Try one to take that surf side. Have you not had one yet? They're dangerous.
That's scary.
Yeah.
But very good.
They're crushable.
Tasty.
Yes, I haven't had one, of course, but they're great. We love the Surfside folks, so we'll send you home with that 4-pack of
That
lemonade.
is crazy good.
Yeah, they're crushable. That's like perfect for the boat, the golf course, the writer's retreat. You put it on ice, dude. People like that on ice.
Dude.
Like you take that out, it just tastes like tea. You don't even taste the vodka in it,
Yeah.
from what I've been told.
That's really good.
Yeah, dude, they're crushable. So you'll be enjoying some of those. Well, we can get you a bunch of those. But I remember Trey dipping the Wolf Peach at the time.
Okay.
I remember he was dipping because I packed a lip with him, and that was my first time meeting him. And then it turned from there to kickball.
Yes, and those were the days, dude.
Bro, those were the best times because at the time you were going down and playing cover gigs in the Southeast, right?
I was still playing, Athens, Auburn, just doing, which to me is a nightmare now. Like, but that is, I'll do that now. I was still waiting tables. Like,
Yeah, you were. Was that over at Rippy's?
I was working at Listening Room, Rippy's, refereeing basketball.
Yeah, I remember that referee McKinney.
Yeah,
I remember you being
dude.
like, "Hey, I'll be over after this basketball game." I'm like, "Wait, you're refereeing like kids' youth basketball games?"
And to me, it's like, a lot of people, like, I don't miss serving ever. I never will. Like, but when it comes to basketball, it's like, I will never, never, never miss that. Just like, you call a double dribble on a 6-year-old and his dad wants to fight you in the parking lot type of shit, And it's, and growing up in Georgia, like, I ref from the time I was like 18 to, I don't know, whenever I quit, 25, 26.
Yeah.
And, you just develop a tougher layer of skin. You learn how to tune them out. But, like, dude, there's nothing worse than, like, an AAU basketball tournament. It's like 9 a.m., you went out with your boys the night before, you throw on your stripes, you get to the gym and just getting screamed at like 9:01, like from the tip. What kind of toss was that, ref? And it's like, take it less serious. Like, these kids, like, I go back and I don't ever remember. My parents were very supportive, but they were never those type of parents.
No,
And
I can't.
It's
I
just
can't see.
progressively over the generations, just gotten worse.
I
It's
can't see your parents yelling at a game. I
No.
can't
Yeah.
envision that at all.
Yeah, but man, I will never miss that job.
Yeah.
Up there with the worst. Serving was bad. I used to throw some coupons for like sport clips. That wasn't awful because you just drive around and throw coupons in people's driveway like it's 1981 or something. Like, I don't know anyone that actually checks their
Was that during
driveway.
COVID?
Not long after, yeah. Like
Oh,
when
shit.
COVID had started. But I remember when I saw my pub deal, dude, it was like for the first year. I'd like get home from my right, and I'm so used to like come home, shower, change to the job, or like wake up, work, go right, go to other job. That like I was sitting around going stir crazy, like this is really my only job now, you know. And it's like it's a blessing. It's like what I always wanted, but it took me like a year to adapt to just like, oh my God, I'm not gonna have like a 12 and under mom screaming at me Saturday morning. You know, it's like just that type of stuff. But
yeah, and I remember kickball for sure was when I started to get really close with you guys, like your whole crew of the no hits crew, the Sigs in the outfield crew, like hanging out at Ryan Nelson's house, hanging out at the Bama house at Trey, Ella, Mitch, and Clay's house, hanging out at your apartment, the fantasy football draft at my house in Antioch, that sketchy little house I was living in, dude. Hanging out at Maxwell's, partying at Nick Haynes and Chelsea's, bro.
Those were good times.
On the front of, and you'd hear like shots off, and you'd hear pop, and we're just sitting there, dick down in Dallas, just sitting around the fire pit, passing around cigars and other stuff, dude. We had a good time, man. And it's like to see where everybody's at now. And last night we had our final event at Live Oak with Live Oak closing.
Yeah.
And
sad.
It's like, bro, it is sad because it's that during COVID to me, there were three places that were really thriving. It was Live Oak, it was the local, and it was Scoreboards. Those were the three places that I remember going and watching you guys play rounds. Obviously, I was hosting at Live Oak and then going over to Scoreboards and just hanging out with everybody on like a college football Saturday.
Yeah.
Like that's what we were doing.
And those were times, man. Yeah. And I think what's crazy is like, I was just thinking about this the other day, and it's like, everybody I feel like is just as close. Like when we see each other, it's just everything's so busy, you know. And it's like, I mean, I was at the beach and I talked to Ella for almost 2 hours on the phone, and it's like, oh my God, like I didn't realize how long we hadn't talked to each other. Like the things I'm telling her and she's telling me that we didn't know, or like, you know, I'll call Trey and, hey man, sound check in, and then you hear from him a week later, and he's like, oh yeah, this, you know, or like I run into Joy Beth now. When I see Joy Beth or Maxwell, even it's like when we run into each other on Music Row, and it's like, what's been new? Like we got to get up and get drinks, and we never do, just because it's like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm on the road with this artist. Or what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm on a retreat. But hey, when I get back on Tuesday, oh man, I'm playing a show Tuesday, and it's just like our life. This is everything we prayed for, but it's like it's so kind of weird, you know. Even like when I see you out, it's like I mainly will see you like at a round, or like if we like when I saw you at the album release party for the other day, it's like that's probably the first time I'd seen you in like a month.
Yeah, and Nikki T, because Nikki and I are just running around too. Yeah, you know, it's a grind. And I think back to one of my, because I was trying to think back last week for Tuesday, my last outside the round, I didn't get too emotional. Nikki was starting to get emotional on Tuesday, and I was like, it hasn't hit me yet. And then last night, I wouldn't say like close to tears. I was close to tears, but I wasn't fully crying. But it was like emotional, and I was like thinking back to Live Oak and the different the nights that we had there. And the one that stands out, of course, is the first time that Trey had played DDID in there with Maxwell and Ella and Joy Beth. And Nikki always says what made that video so crazy was Joy Beth and Ella, these two young girls, sitting up there pumping their fists, like, butt fucked in Boston, you know, like back in the day. And then that birthday party that we had planned. Yeah, Nick, that was the first collabs, Raised Rowdy. That was my first event that was like with Raised Rowdy. That was our first like in the round Raised Rowdy collab when Wales was in on it too. And we had planned that birthday party before we knew the song was going to be anything. And then I remember you coming up to me after, and you're like, I think I just got a publishing deal. Yeah. And that was the night that Rusty and Maya and Tom, Anna, that whole crew was in. Pretty much every publisher in town was there that night. And that was during COVID, so we were still technically running at a certain capacity. But that birthday party night of like you, Ella, Joy Beth, Trey, Maxwell, Ray Fulcher, Stephen Paul, Dawson, like the whole gang playing that night, and just everybody's lives within a couple months later, everybody had their photos in Scott Stafford's office of signing their thing with the whiskey drinks out and everything. And then you and I ended up on the road with Trey, because you were out on the road with us for first couple months. Yeah. Hopping up there singing Music Man.
The night, I'll never forget, because, we'd planned this birthday party, 3-4 months ahead.
Yeah, Nikki and I were like, let's throw a birthday bash for Trey and Maxwell. Like, let's do it. And then it's like, oh, fuck, this is going to be when but when our whole gang's the part of the biggest song in the world for like this moment.
I come back side stage. I'm pretty sure it was me, Joy Beth. No, the round was me, Maxwell, and Trey.
Yeah.
Just the three of us, right?
Yeah.
And I came out like side stage, and they're like, "Hey, who's here?" I was like, "Well, like Sony's here, Big Machine's here, Warner's here, Universal's here. Let's have fun, boys!" Like,
Yeah.
break a leg, you know. And at the time, it was like that was like huge to us, you know. You have three majors and then a freaking Big Machine in the house to watch you play, and yeah, that's crazy. I just remember like we're all like low key, like really nervous.
I remember Trey playing Believer and getting through that first chorus and the crowd just erupting.
Yeah.
Because everybody wanted a slice of the pie.
What a great song.
Yeah, and that's my thing, dude. Those are some of my favorite Trey songs are the ones that were coming out that time. And like you, Maxwell, like everybody at that time, like the songs of 2020 were some of my favorite. That's why like you and I were both talking about one of our favorite tracks on Ella's album, which is crushing, by the way.
Yeah.
I love seeing what she's doing, and it's I have like proud big brother feelings, which I know you do too. You actually lived with her, so real proud big brother stuff. But Monsters being on that album, bro. I remember us riding around in the van. I think you were with us, and we used to sit there in demo jail. Like that was what we did. We listened to a lot of demo jail in the van, and Monsters was one of those songs. I believe Hunter Girl was singing on the work tape of it or the demo.
Yeah,
and to see that, because that was one of my favorite like COVID songs.
When she first showed me that song, I mean the melodies are all good and everything's great, but when you get to that pre-chorus, everywhere I go, I don't belong. That hooky melody, I was already bought before like I even heard the payoff on the chorus, and yeah, that's a great song. I was glad that one. Found a place, and Ella fought for that one, and Maya fought for that song, and it's cool too just to see Hunter, Joy Beth, and Ella all get a cut together on there. But I'm sitting here staring at the plaque right there.
Yeah, we got that right there. We got the DDID plaque right there, bro. Like we got a lot of different things in here from just different. We got that random eagle knife thing that we picked up. We picked that up at like a pawn shop clothing store in Monteagle, Tennessee.
Okay,
Mickey and I saw that. We were like, "This is a business expense. We'll put it in the podcast studio." So, and I love how on the bottom it says "bald eagle knife." It's like no shit, it's a bald eagle knife. But yeah, dude. And then you coming on the road with us too.
Yeah, man.
In the van.
Those were fun times.
Those are. I always tell people like they're like you've got to do a lot of cool shit, Burrill. Like what's some of the wildest stuff? And I'm like those first couple months in the van.
Yeah.
Were insane, and we were like 10, 11 deep in there. And like you're a big guy, Trey's a big guy, Devontae's a big guy. Which by the way, I saw Devontae recently.
Really?
We were up at Tailgate and Tall Boys, Midland, Michigan.
Yeah.
And they had me on stage hosting, like emceeing the whole thing, which was sick. It was so cool. I love the folks in Michigan. Shout out to Wayne and Austin and the whole crew with USA Concerts and Tailgate and Tall Boys. But I'm backstage and I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see this big black figure moving towards me. He's in like a hoodie, and I'm like, who's in a hoodie? It's like 85 degrees. And all of a sudden, he's playing with the lights. I'm like, holy shit, it's Devontae. Devontae has now been on the road for a while because he had left Trey and gotten a gig with like a K-pop band.
Yeah.
He was like overseas in Asia for a while.
I didn't realize that.
With this K-pop band. Only guy that didn't speak Korean.
Yeah.
He's so good at lights, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And he is now doing like production stuff for Jessie Murph.
Wow.
So he has been on the road, and her visuals, like her light show and her video wall were insane. I'm like, that's a Devontae.
I've heard great things.
That's a Devontae production right there. But him and I had like a big hug and like a big moment. And then at the end of the night, he was still loaded. He was loading. I'm like, you've come a long way from loading the Trey Lewis trailer. Now you're calling a pack for a semi. Dude. And he's like, dude, this is crazy. But it was good to see him. But yeah, those times in the van, like the trip out to Texas, the trips to Georgia.
Yeah.
Martin, Tennessee.
That was a very memorable, but I wish it was a forgettable trip.
I know, dude. But it's just these rooms, and it was crazy because nobody else was touring like we were.
Let's just hone in on this for a second. Anyone listening that doesn't know, and I'll admit, I try to cover up a little bit. Trey played a show in Martin, Tennessee. There's about 1,400 people there that night.
14 to 15, yeah. More than probably should have been in that room, but we did it.
We show up. I drive down with Nikki T and Dawson Edwards. naturally, Dawson and I get like 2 pitchers of margaritas, and we're drinking them on the way to
And
the
Nikki drives.
And Nikki drives. So we get there, and granted, I am a big guy, and like a pitcher of margaritas doesn't do much to me, like truthfully, anyone that knows that. So this stage is not marked. It's just completely black. There's no taping. So we go up the right side of the stage. I come around the front of the stage, and they're like, oh, to get to the green room, you got to go around. I start walking. Well, there's 6 feet apart because these are COVID times. So there's like some 2x4s. The floor is black. The stage is black. It all looks like one thing.
The 2x4 spike things, bro.
Yes. The spikes of death.
No bike rack.
No.
It's 2x4 like medieval like spikes keeping the people back at sliding.
And what color were they? Black.
Yeah,
So I couldn't see anything. And I go to step across the front of the stage and walk in front of the mic. And that's the last thing I remember. I fall about 8 feet. I land on about 2x4s. Next thing I know, I hear the crowd going nuts. They think I stage dove.
They think it's part of the show.
They thought it was part of the
The
show.
show was just crazy at that point. Though.
I mean, I don't know if your cameras can pick it up, but look.
Oh, you still have it? Yeah, I have a photo of you.
Still have a scar on my tongue from where I bit through it.
Yeah, you're actually wearing the black hat version of this. You're wearing a Raised Rowdy hat, and you had your bandana on.
Covered in blood.
Bro, I have a photo of you, and you can see the hole in your tongue. What impressed me the most about that night, because I remember I was at the merch table, and I remember hearing the crowd roar, and I look over, and you're on the ground, like, oh, fuck. And then I remember going up to the green room to check and make sure you were okay. I think I had Nick Haynes or somebody watch the merch table, and you're just upstairs just spitting blood, but you're still going. And you're still like, I'm going to get up there. I'm going to sing music, man. And the most electric moment of that night was you and Maxwell chugging beers. You got on your knee, so you're the same size as Maxwell. And you guys are both up there chugging during Friends in Low Place. I'm like, what is this guy doing?
Dude, I think about it now, because this is, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, I would be dead. We didn't finish, but I cracked my sternum, and I broke 2 ribs, in addition to... I broke 3 metacarpals in my hand, which put me in a cast, and then I bit through my tongue. But like for the longest time, the venue owner came out and was like, well, was he drunk? No, sir, I was not. I had not even drank yet. So I am coming clean on the podcast and saying I was definitely drinking beforehand. But
yeah,
we brought Mark Oriot up to evaluate my tongue. He was an EMT, and he's like, dude, I mean, they can't really stitch that. I won't say who, but someone in the venue who worked for the venue offered me like Percocets. I was like, man, I'd rather not like get hooked on opiates, but if you got some cold beer. And I ended up drinking, 16, 17 beers, but I just remember holding out my tongue, and I just said, just dump salt on it.
Yeah.
And they dumped all that salt on my tongue, and that's what got me through the night.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just want to tell my side of the story.
That was a wild, wild night. I remember that being Nicky T's first show back, like first concert, because Nick at that point was going to 50, 60 shows a year as a patron, like just going anything that was within like an hour or two of, or not even an hour, 4 hours of Pittsburgh. Nick was driving with his friends to go watch shows before he moved to town. So this was his first concert back, and I think he was blown away by how many people were there. And that was where the first ever, and we still do this when we go to Trey Lewis shows. That was where Nick got the piece of cardboard. Nick was how many beers can I buy? And they're like, we'll sell you a box. And Nick was walking around with a box of Busch Light. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
He bought like 30-something beers at
gosh.
Slide and Ride and was walking around just handing them out to people. Like,
It's amazing.
But he cut a piece. We tore off a piece of the cardboard, and I had the Sharpies at the merch table. And he wrote Trey Lewis All Access 100% legit.
Yeah.
And he has worn that to every Trey Lewis show still to this day. And Trey, back then, I was like, we're honoring this pass forever.
Dude,
like,
that's amazing.
The Nicky T Raised Rowdy pass, bro. But Slide and Ride, dude. Every time that I went out to that venue, something bad happened. I went out there 4 times. It no longer exists. They have a location in Jackson, Tennessee that has live bull riding.
So they shut down.
They shut down.
Good.
They shut down. And now they have a location in Jackson that's smaller. They don't do like full band original stuff. They have like cover bands going there, but they do like live bull riding where you can sign up and you can like get on a bull and put on a helmet. Like
That's another way to break some ribs,
Pookie and those folks
Par
are
for the course.
wild, bro. And again, I have nothing but love for Pookie, but every time that I went out there, something bad happened. First time I go out there was with my buddy Ethan Willis.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan, he's one of the guys that helped me really get started in town, and he's from out that way originally. And I was with him, Dave Hangley, and some folks, and it was just a weird vibe. And we were opening for John Langston.
Yeah.
And Ethan or Dave at the time, we later found out he was getting catfish like severely, like abduction level. Like it was. They were trying. The girl was trying. It was really odd. The girl had said that she was like had some disease and she was flying back to Africa for these kids that she had adopted, and that she was in Portland, Maine for this connection. I'm like, why are you connecting to a flight to Africa in Portland, Maine? Like this doesn't make any sense. And Dave was like distraught about this. So I was on the phone trying to handle it. On the phone with this girl who was apparently in this parking garage in Maine, all this weird shit while that was going on. So that was time one at Slide and Ride. Time two at Slide and Ride was with Muscadine, and they had come close to selling out the show, but there was a big frat party, so nobody showed up. And it was like a few hundred people. It was a weird.
Wow.
It was with Muscadine before COVID. Yeah. Third time was with Ethan, and at the time, myself, Ethan, and our buddy Cody Bradley, we all had our girlfriends come with us, and we all rode out there. And by the time we came back, all of our girlfriends had broken up with us, like because of stuff that had happened that night. It was just a chaotic night.
Wow.
And then my fourth time was that night with you.
Ugh.
Every time I went out there,
it's cursed.
I had good times out there, but for the most part, it was just like an energy of like everything. Every time something went wrong, and again, I have nothing but love and respect for Pookie. He's always been good. He always flew a raised Rowdy flag there. Like, had some wild times, and that last time with Ethan was like right before COVID, and John was sick, and we didn't see John at all until he was on stage.
Yeah,
and that was like 3 days before the world shut down.
Yeah.
So it was like there's
That's
just dark energy, bro.
Yeah.
Then the other time that stands out was Texas when your boy AJ Minter came out to the show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Those Texas shows were nuts, and we were in a van.
Yeah.
I think you had flown out.
And I flew in and then I rode
you stayed out there with Kenny Wayne with Matt Daniel.
Yeah.
And you guys wrote songs and fished and stayed on the ranch.
Yeah. Actually, when Minter came, golly, that was
Frisco, Texas. That was the Southern Junction.
I'll never forget because, you know this, but I'm a diehard Braves guy.
You're just a big baseball guy, but yes, Braves, but you just love the game of baseball.
And I walked up to AJ and I said, if you don't mind me asking, I said, who do you play? I didn't even ask him. I knew I thought I knew who he was. And he's like, hey, man, I play for the Braves. I said, Minter. And he said, yeah. And so I met him, and he's like, yeah, we're supposed to meet Trey. And I go backstage, and Trey, I saw him shake his hand. And then we go backstage, and Trey's like, yeah, some baseball player for the Braves supposed to be here. And I was like, you idiot. That was him out there. He's already here. Like, you want me to bring him back, But that's cool. Through that, I've gotten to know AJ, decently well. And he always hooks me up when I come back to Atlanta. But the problem is, let's see, he's hooked me up now for 2 Marlins games. They've rained both games. We lost both games. Oh. Then he got me tickets to the Mets. This was this past year.
Oh, dude.
And we got shelled. It was like 21-3.
The Mets dominated that series.
And so I'm like, maybe I'm just bad luck. Like, I'm just going to start buying the tickets and then meeting up after. I don't, maybe it's me.
Because that weekend in Texas was wild too, and there were some bad omens of that too. So maybe it's just you and AJ together. Just bad shit happens.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Because he's still on the Braves, right? He didn't get traded during the deadline, right?
He's still there. He's still there. And we just brought Luke Jackson back from San Francisco.
One
of his best friends.
Boudreaux's favorite. Boudreaux used to roast.
Dude, I love Luke Jackson.
Boudreaux used to, and we'll get into Twitter here in a second. Right. Boudreaux used to get into on the Twitter, and he had all his fake accounts, and he would just yell about Luke Jackson. He just hated Luke Jackson. I'm like, I don't think he's that bad.
Here's the thing.
There's
that
way
guy,
worse relievers than Luke Jackson. He was young at that point.
That guy played a integral part in our World Series run. So he will always be an Atlanta Brave, and I'll always respect him. Because, that's another thing with baseball is it is one of the most mentally tough sports.
Yeah.
I would say up there with golf of all sports.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes you get in a little bit of a slump, but, that guy had a hell of a year. Then he went to San Francisco, had a hell of a year. ERA is a little up this year, but hopefully the Atlanta Magic will come back to him. But, I mean, I understand. I've definitely heard the Braves. I'm on the forums. I'm on the Twitter, on all the things.
I know you're on the Twitter.
Yeah. And you hear about all that.
Yeah,
But,
dude. Yeah, dude. I still call it Twitter, by the way. I can't call it
I just
X.
realized that X.
I can't call it X. It's always going to be Twitter. The logo may be different, and Elon may be owning it, and there might be weirder shit on there now, but it will always be Twitter in my eyes. And I've never gotten really into Twitter. I like tried to do it for a little bit, and I'll bitch about the Yankees like every now and again, but it's probably my least used of all the social media apps. Like, I'm more of an Instagram guy. I don't even get on TikTok, bro.
I think it's great for
works.
like if you want to search something specifically, like the whole All-Star Game national anthem fiasco.
Yeah.
I just typed in national anthem, and I mean, 100,000 of like the best humor I've
Yeah, if you're
ever
looking
read.
for like news or like
Yeah,
trade deadline, I'll get on there and see what John Heyman and Ken Rosenthal were saying about the Yankees during the trade deadline, like that kind of news, or like
college football is great.
College
too.
football, like signing day, or like recruiting for college football. It's great up to the minute updates. Which is,
and then other than that, it's just like ball busting. Central,
it's just venting. Yeah,
so it is very toxic. I will say that.
Yeah,
but for the most part, like if you can get on there and you can just be like, oh, Google this, or I mean, search for this in the search bar. It's pretty beneficial. I think so.
Talking about ball busting and craziness, a really good mutual friend of ours who's been like, I want to say it's like a brother relationship with him, but I know it's always wild. Jordan Walker. How your friendship with him, dude? Because he's one of those guys that if he doesn't break your balls, he doesn't like you.
Yeah,
and he breaks both of our balls.
Yeah.
Like. I mean, I haven't seen him in a while. He's been busy doing the dad stuff.
Yeah,
but
good dude, phenomenal rider. But I mean, probably the quickest wit in town.
Yeah,
and I learned early on. Like when I saw him there, I was just like, I'm not going to comment on this because I know he's going to come back with this, and this.
Yeah, you have to be strategic.
But I've got a lot of friends like that in town. But he definitely, quick wit.
And I feel like you guys both do such a good job at a venue like the Listening Room.
Yeah,
where part of what people get with that experience, and people can get it sometimes at other rounds too. Like if you have the right group, like we've had it at Live Oak over the years, where you have the right group of guys or girls up there.
Yeah,
where you get the personality, where you're gonna laugh and hear a lot about the songs and get to just see the camaraderie that's in the songwriting community.
Yeah,
Jordan does a great job of that, and you do a great job of that with your Listening Room shows.
Yeah, and I think it's funny as a songwriter because like 90% of songwriters would never want to be like an artist, like have no desire to tour, have no desire to like put out music, whatever. But there is a sense of it and a side of it, which is like, I feel like that's why we, me and him both pretty much have like residencies at the Listen Room a couple times a month. And Adam Craig and numerous guys, Josh Phillips. But it's funny because there isn't a side of artistry to it. Like you have your stories and you kind of really have to know how to warm up to the crowd, when to tell a certain story. Sometimes you're on the fly and it's like, oh, he just played a really funny song. I can't play this, bring the energy down or whatever. So you do actually build a set and you do constantly like chisel these stories to get the best laugh out of the crowd. So it is, I do love playing the Listen Room for that reason, but it is a lot more complex than just getting up there and being like, oh, this song's a 1-4-5 in G. It's not just like, hey, I wrote this song with Matt Burrill and blah, and you just play it, And I think there definitely is a side of that, and there are people that you do invite, but like, bringing up the legends, like I got to play, there with like Marv Green and Rivers Rutherford, and I'm just sitting there like listening to the stories behind these songs, and then it's like, oh shit, it's my turn. I'm as engaged.
Rivers Rutherford turning a 3-minute and 45-second or 2-minute whatever hit into like a 7-minute song where he's just ripping on guitar. And he starts standing up and stopping his feet. I've been trying to get Rivers on this podcast. I think we're going to be doing it soon. But the guys that you just named, like yourself, Josh Phillips, Jordan Walker, Adam Craig, and I throw Ray Fulcher in there too.
Yeah.
You guys have all at some point done the artist thing too. So I think that factors in as well, where you guys know how to do that. You've all done sets where it's like just you on stage, like going back to your days in Athens and going to Auburn and T-Town and all that. Jordan obviously with Walker McGuire, and fucking Ray's still out there doing his thing, and Josh was on the Brantley tour years ago and done his thing, and Adam, of course, which to me it's a crime that Adam Craig is still not
one of my favorite voices in town.
It's a crime that that Adam doesn't do. But again, he's found where. But that's, I think, what makes your guys show, like you guys playing the writers shows and the writers nights and even the private gigs so special, is because you have that thing where artists have to know how to entertain people, and you guys are all very good at that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely learn.
Yeah.
And there's certain songs I've played where I'm like, oh, that was a bust. I'm never playing that one again. Or that story got awkward at this point. I need to find a different way to tell it, or whatever it is. But going back to the Rivers, dude, every story he has behind a song is just like amazing.
And he's still on his game, creating incredible stuff.
Dude.
Like, he's still up there as far as like active writers, him and Marv. Like, those are guys that have been doing it for coming up on 3 decades. Yeah. Over 3 decades. And they're still getting in the room with these young artists and creating incredible things. Yeah.
And dude, Rivers is like, I like jokingly call him like my Nashville dad, but he really is. Like, I've learned so much about the craft itself, or just to like who I am as a songwriter through, you know, my friendship with him. And, you know, anytime you get in a room with any of those guys for me, like the Marv Greens, the Rivers Rutherfords, like getting in with Bob DiPiero, Jeff Steele, like these guys who are just like, I moved to town because of their work. You're always like trying to take something. I'm the student in the room, you know, and to me, I feel like to be a beneficial songwriter, you have to be able to every day, no matter if it's those guys or whoever, you know, like a hot name in the game and young right now, you're always trying to like just be a sponge in the room. Like, you're going to give where you give and you're going to do what you do, but you always try to take something. And so every time I'm in the room with like any of those guys, like, you know, I'm just like, there's a reason they have the hits they do. It's not because they were in the room at 11 o'clock at the right time, you know? And, you know, there are certain people in town that will, not about those guys at all, but just, you know, decorated Hall of Famers or whatever. And it's like, oh, they're just a little dated, or they haven't got with the times. And I've never had those experiences, but even in those experiences, man, like, you gotta take and try to sharpen the iron by learning from those guys. Because, like, dude, I wouldn't have moved to town if it weren't for, I don't know, 6 of the guys I just named. You know, like, those are the guys. Like, when albums came out, I'm just like flipping in the back, like, I don't care. It's a McGraw record. Who wrote what? You know? And or whoever, Blake Shelton record. But yeah, I think that's just like, your duty as a songwriter is like, that's kind of like an ode to them for, you know, but those guys, I mean, unreal. You just constantly learning. So,
yeah.
And those guys come from an era where it was like, dude, they're not sitting down writing a song always in 3 hours and they're out, you know, like, we're in this mass production state of this business where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go create the song 2.5 hours, then go to my next one, create 1 in 3.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys are taking sometimes 4 sessions, and you can hear it in the craft of a song. Like, I mean, I don't know exactly how long, like, When I Get Where I'm Going took, but like the details of that song, you're like, there's no way they sat down in 45 minutes and wrote that song.
Yeah, and there's no way that song was written and then in the studio and getting cut 2 weeks later. It was a process in the studio as well. And that's, I was talking with Ryan Yeomans the other day, and he's like, bro, I'm working with these young artists, and the labels are wanting like 2-week return time so they can go right from the studio out to streaming.
Yeah.
Like, the high volume of stuff. And the songs are still great, but it's just, there's a difference. You can hear it in the 2000s and in the 90s stuff.
The craft was
now.
just different to me,
bro. Like, there's something about a song that sits for a little while, and the producer and the artist figure out exactly, and the writers too, like, figure out exactly how is this supposed to sound, you know? And there's so many, like, a work tape can sound so different than a demo can sound so different from the final cut version. Like, you give time and let it marinate, bro. Yeah, that's how you get that great generational stuff.
And for me, just as a creative, and I love where we are in the industry, and I think it's amazing. Like, you know, I don't like Spotify's business model, obviously, but I think the streaming service has created opportunities for a lot of new artists, and even helps songwriters. But it is slightly part of me as a creative that it is a little sad, you know, when like these 24 song records come out, and it's just like, there's some really good songs that never get the light of day because it's just so concentrated now that it's like, you know, you're hearing the XM single and you're hearing the radio single, and then like a couple features here and there, but then like when you really actually, I don't know many people like as listeners, as consumers, that sit down and are like, oh dude, have you heard the new blank blank record? Like, track number 18 is phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we're just in such a right here, right now realm of music now that it's like, in a way, there's so many songs, which I think down the road could benefit songwriters because they might get recut. You know, there's certain songs that like, oh, that wasn't a single. It was actually, which happened back in the day, but I think it could also give a little bit of a kickback to the songwriter, to the artist. But it is kind of sad to watch sometimes, you know, like, I mean, even when like, I remember being a kid, like a Diamond Rio record would drop, dude. And it's like 12 songs. To me, that's enough. Like 12 songs, I can know every single lyric, front and back, every songwriter, get through a record, and you fall in love with this body of work to where now it's like, dude, why are you putting out 222 song albums in a year?
Yeah, No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems wouldn't have hit the same with Kenny Chesney
Dude.
if it were that record and the next record put together.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have.
Like, I mean, prime example, a song off that record, like Live Those Songs.
Yeah.
No one talks about that song, but because it was a small body of work, it's like, dude, I remember that was the first CD I ever bought. And
Same. That was one of my first too. Yep. Yeah. With Kenny in the black tank top with the black hat on.
Yeah.
Young kicking off that record. And it was just like, damn, dude.
I went to the Best Buy in Augusta, Georgia. My grandpa took me in his, 94 Ford Ranger, and we pulled up, and I'd spend my hard-earned money for that Kenny record. And it's like, but again, like that's 12 songs that were just like, I still remember that, record to this day, where nowadays it's a little harder to be like, like I'll see a writer and we'll be in the room chit-chatting, and it's like, what are you fired up about? It's like, well, I just got a cut on her, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. A cut's always a good cut, but it's at the same time as a songwriter, you're like, yeah, with 28 other songs on the record.
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
It's just harder to beat songs out.
It's like
now.
Look at a guy like Big Money Maxwell, and we've called him Big Money Maxwell before there was any deal that he had. That was just always our joke with Alex, and he's had over 24 cuts in the past 2 years, but it's like I couldn't even tell you what all those songs are. Whereas like in the previous era, you would know those songs because they would be on radio or they would be part of a smaller collection.
Right.
Where it's tough.
And I mean, that's the same way for me, or same with, I'm going to give some kickback to my boy Maxwell.
Yes.
That's any writer nowadays. It's like, I mean, I've had X amount of major label cuts too, and it's like, I don't know. Like, if anyone actually dove into my work, you might know 6, 7, and it's like, but you try not to get, every cut's always a win in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, you try to celebrate because there's so many just ass kickings you take.
Yeah.
That's like, if you don't celebrate the wins, it makes it hard sometimes. But it is definitely harder now because it's like, dude, if you're not getting the single or just a standout phenomenal song that ultimately gets recognition, it's easy to just be like, even at a writer's round, like, I don't want to play my deep cut off of a Colby Cooper record that I had, which love Colby, love all that, but it's like on the record it's probably like the lowest streaming song. It's like I'd rather just play something new that people hope that they can hear. You can hopefully convince them that they're going to hear, even though they may never hear it. But it's just a whole different kind of industry in a sense. Yeah.
What was it like when you first get that deal and then you're getting in the rooms, because you've been writing songs for a long time. You're what I look back on our era of Revival. I look at like the different events in town. Like right now, Raise Rowdy, we're lucky enough that Nikki and I and our events I've become a staple in town and
100%.
like a chapter of things that have come from there. Like I look at guys and girls, like I look at like Bailey Zimmerman, Ella, Dylan Marlowe, like people like that came from our events. But Revival and Whiskey Jam obviously are like staples in town and like moments in time. Like Luke Combs is a Revival guy.
Right, yeah.
Big Rob Snyder, obviously, Revival guy. Muscadine Bloodline, Revival guys. Eric Dillon, like that era.
Riley.
Yep, Riley Green. Like you were a part of like the end of that era and writing songs and stuff. And you've always been a prolific writer, and you were doing a lot in like that Americana kind of left of center world. With
man.
The Ben Chapmans, the Tyler Halversons, the Nate Fredericks, the Ryan Nelsons, the Meg McCrees, Harper O'Neills, Vinny Paolizzi, Gabe Lee. The list goes on and on. And I love those kids. And they're fantastic. They're like family to us.
Yeah.
But for you sign the deal, you start writing down on 16th Avenue, you start doing the Sony thing. Like you're in it now. Like you're at the big time. And part of what gets you there is a song that you write as a joke with your buddies.
Yeah.
That blows up and has this moment where the entire town is talking about it. Folks out of town, it's fucking massive.
Yeah.
What's it like getting in that room? Were people like, oh, this is just the Dick Down in Dallas guy and you kind of had to prove yourself? Or was it like you had already kind of had some relationships and people kind of knew the whole body of work?
No, man, it was kind of like ground zero, you know, and I was more hungry too because I had written so many other songs.
Yeah,
and that was
dude.
just kind of like
You were playing songs in the van that you were writing probably close to double digit. You were writing a lot of songs each month. Like you were just writing every day.
Yeah.
Before the pub deal.
But I mean, even my position now to where I was 4 years, I think every day you're getting in the room, you got to prove yourself. Like I was listening to the Troy Cartwright podcast.
Yeah,
and
10
he
Year
had-
Town, dude. I love that podcast.
It's
He
great.
does such a great job. Troy, I'd love to get you on here, by the way. I'd love to have Troy on here.
But hearing Rocky say, like, I love working with new people because, like, you could have, that's just the thing about town is, like, you could have a bunch of big hits, and it's like, when you're working with somebody new, you always have to prove yourself. And, like, there's a professional way to do it. You're not trying to go above and beyond. You're not trying to be the dominant chair in the room by any means. But, like, so starting particularly, that was my first, like, big hit. I felt I was even a little bit more in the hole because they're like, oh, I'm writing with the Dick Down in Dallas guy. And it was like, but I'd worked my whole life to not be that, to be this respected songwriter. And it takes time, you know, and like just the cold hard facts is like, dude, you're just not going to gel with people. Like you could throw me in the room with two guys with multiple hits on the chart right now. And that doesn't mean we're going to get a great song, but you could throw me in the room with somebody who they're like, oh, this guy, you know, he doesn't contribute much. Well, it's all about chemistry in a room. You know, like obviously you do have your guys that do what they do extremely well. Like you're not going to get in the room with Ashley Gorley and get a shitty melody, you know?
Yeah.
Or you're not going to get in the room with like Lee Thomas Miller and just be like, man, the lyric was pretty weak today. You know, that doesn't happen. But like just because they do one thing particularly well, which is where it gets a little confusing for like publishers, like, oh, this guy's a great lyric, his melody and his idea, let's throw it together. And every day you never know, but you're always in the room trying to prove yourself, you know, every day. But I definitely thought it was a little more difficult coming in with that as the hit.
Who were some of your first writers where you were like, you could kind of like your first writes that were set up by Sony that you remember where you're
dude,
like,
I think my first one was Jesse Alexander and Jimmy Urey. And
great room to be in.
I thought that went well.
Yeah.
You know, about 8 days after my deal was me, Jordan Davis, Jacob Davis, and Jordan Walker.
That's another.
We wrote part of it.
That's a lot of talking in that room.
Yeah.
We just saw Jordan, by the way, up in Cincinnati opening for Combs. And bro, such a good show.
Man.
Such a good show. Dude is electric.
Yeah. Trying to think other ones. Obviously got in with Hayslip pretty early, and to me that was a bucket as a Georgia guy. Like, you know, that body of work, all the Peach Picker stuff, just like, again, part of the reason I moved to town. But those were like kind of the moments like early on where I was like, oh, I'm here. Like, this is real, you know, like this is, and dude, there's great writers all over town. Like, you're not just going to say like, oh, like, I mean, major publishing companies do have a greater concentration of like hit writers, but that's primarily because of numbers, like roster size.
Yeah.
So yeah, you like your hit to writer ratio is probably going to be really high, but like there's incredible small independent pubs all over town.
Yeah,
like,
that have some great fucking writers.
I mean, look at, you know, like even back blocks with like Blake Pendergrass or like, I mean, Concord, Big Machines of independent.
I think of like Seagull, 50 Egg.
I mean, there's so many small good pubs, and that's not like this major mentality that like we're at a major every day. Like we're all throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks, you know? And, but that was for me, like when I got to Sony, one of those moments where it's like, this is like getting the call, like you're in the big leagues now.
Yeah.
It's time to write like real songs, you know, like not that you weren't before, but it's like, and what I found over the years is like, there's so much every single writer in this town that you can take and you can try to like overcomplicate. Like, but there's so many intangibles that are just so out of your control. So like the things this has been really a switch in mindset for me over the last 2 years. It's just like, what can I control and what can I? Like,
Yes.
I can control my relationships. I can control how hard I work. I can control getting my mind right, treating my body right,
Showing up.
yeah. Getting to sleep, how much I'm praying about it. You can control things like that. But then, like, when you walk out of that room, dude, it's like, there's no telling. Music's so subjective. You never know how it's going to hit a certain publisher or how it's going to hit an A&R or an artist just through a text message.
Yeah.
So from there, it's like truly out of our control. You can lose sleep every single night, and you can be like, I should probably get up and like be pitching songs. And like, yeah, like you can control that with your artist friends. But like, the more I've been able to just realize what I can control and do that well, it's helped everything else in my career. Like, I'm not stressing about not getting this cut, or like, man, this song was on hold. This song got cut and didn't make the record. Like, that's fine. It's all gonna, like, it's a one big universe. It's all gonna work itself out. But you can only control, get your ass out of bed and chop wood that day so you can hopefully build a fire, you know? And that has changed my whole perspective. And it took me 4 years to figure it out.
Yeah, dude.
But now it's like, what else are you going to do? You're not going to sit around and mope. And like, you can't beg an artist to cut a song. You can't beg a publisher to like love a song and pitch it. You know, you just got to do what you can control, and then it all kind of falls in, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's anything in this business is like, even if you're in management, if you're in videography, if you're in y'all's side of the business, like, what can you actually control?
Yeah,
like, you can only put in as much work as you can, you know? So, not trying to get like
No,
some
dude,
big
absolutely
music
no.
speech,
That's what
but
we
it's,
that's
you
what we
know,
want now. How long is like a duration of a pub deal and stuff? Because you signed in, what was it, 2020 or was it beginning of 21?
February 1st, 21.
So how long is like a duration of a pub deal work?
Usually, like, for instance, mine was like 2 hard terms with 2 years and then option. It kind of all depends on like your draw and kind of what you're putting on your end of the deal. But my deal's up at Sony February 1st.
Okay.
Which we're talking now, I think, trying to work that out and extend that, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's my home. That's where I love to be.
Yeah.
To me, Rusty, it's like just
Rusty Gaston.
just the guy.
I saw him at the at Ella's release party.
Yeah.
And what a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
What a great guy. And it's funny, my little brother works in New York and works in like finance, and he's having a hell of a day right now. Shout out to the stock market. But but he some of what they've been doing, what his company's been doing, is like working with, talking to like publishers and looking at it from like that perspective, because there's catalogs are fucking valuable, dude.
A lot of money.
There's a lot of stuff involved. So he's been coming to town, and he actually went out to dinner with Rusty
Oh, wow.
like a few months ago. So Rusty saw me in at Ella's thing. He's like, "Did I have dinner with your brother like a few months ago?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He was telling me about that. So,
That's
but
cool.
but he's just such a champion of the craft and of the business, and seems like he treats everybody over there like family, dude. Like, it is, for a big operation like that.
Feels
you don't
small,
always get that, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's a culture.
the biggest word with him is just passion. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you wake up these mornings and it's like, music is healing. Or he'll send, you know, he sends out these texts to all of the writers specifically, which I don't know many like other presidents of companies that do that. But
care that much.
it's like,
yeah.
you know, music is healing. Today you have the power to create something that could change your world and the whole world, you know. And you just get out of bed and you're like, well, shit. Have my coffee and think about that for a minute. But I mean, it's just that, and like, you know, just the energy. And he's such a leader. Obviously, Big Tom being my guy at Sony too. But
I love Big Tom Luderin. And
I just
maybe
love
it's-
I love our publishing staff. Like, you know, like there's not a single publishing office, and that's why he said it is such a big company, but it feels small. Like they feel like family. But I don't feel like there's a single like pluggers A&R that I could like walk in, knock on the door, and not talk to them for 5 minutes, or play them a song, or just like pick their brain creatively about something that I want to do, get on the calendar or whatever. And so obviously that's where I'd like to be. But I know business is business, and we'll figure all that out. But I feel pretty good about, you know, moving forward.
Yeah.
So,
because it's cool that you, Ella, JB, Trey, and Maxwell all ended up at the same place.
Yeah.
Off of that same kind of roller coaster. And I knew it was going to happen. we all knew that like the whole gang was going to get there, you know, and it's like, But for it all to happen off of that moment, and it was just such a whirlwind. And it's funny, Trey and I and like the rest of like the TL team, we used to joke like, yeah, one day we're gonna be opening for Ella kind of thing. Like Ella's a damn superstar to see what she's doing right now. And Maxwell from doing the demos back in the day to now working on major projects, and like a guy that's integral in the careers of some guys that are making a lot of noise right now. And Joy Beth just
crushing, dude.
Quietly just fucking dominating.
It's not quiet
bro.
anymore. Yeah,
I know.
The secret's out.
You meet her and she's like this quiet little like innocent, but she's just a fucking And she was one of those people that when she would play at Live Oak, and Live Oak historically very loud room, you know, and it makes it tough for. But I guess you guys know going in like that it's a networking thing, and there's gonna be people talking, and that's just how that room is. She would get that room to shut up, because she'd be up there just playing. Like Weatherman, a song that you guys wrote with Lydia, like songs like that where people are just like, oh shit, you know, like where it just captivates a room, and she just has this voice. Yeah. So it's cool
and it's cool like our group coming up together, especially those 5. And I mean, there's more like Dawson, and you know, you add in
Dawson, Brian Frazier, Cody Parks.
It's like a bunch of those, but particularly like, you know, even us living together, it'd be like, oh, you got canceled on today? That's great. Like, I did too. Let's work. And, you know, like, it's always just, like, encouraging, like, hey, you know what? Let's make them regret the cancel today. Let's write something. Or, like, call Maxwell, like, well, what's going on? Like, I had something this morning, but, like, what about this afternoon? It's like, yeah, dude, let's write one this afternoon. You know, like, we're always encouraging each other, just, like, keep working, keep chopping wood, you know? And I feel like that's kind of what we've all just kind of had this hustle, you know, which you have to have. I think there's, not that we're any different than any other writer in this town, but having that core group of just like, you know, to keep pushing you together. And, you know, me and Joy Beth living downstairs, it'd be like 11 o'clock at night. Like, I got this idea, you know, and it's just like constant creation. It was like, you know, I kind of tribute a lot of our success to like just how much we kept pushing each other throughout all the time, you know. The highs and the lows, and it's so fun to watch, you know. And I'll never forget, like, the morning me and Ella got a cut on El King, like, running upstairs, and she's just like, what the hell, dude? You know, like, and then it's funny because, like, little things like that start becoming, you still cherish them, but you start looking back and being like, man, I wish I could just feel that every time. Like when Ella got the Randy Houser tour or the Jamie Johnson tour, and we're just like, this is the coolest thing ever. We're backstage at a Randy Houser show, which is amazing. Big fan.
I remember getting the call from Trey and Alex saying, hey, we're going on the road with Kid Rock. Yeah. Like just moments like that where it's.
The high you felt, you know, or, and like, again, huge Jamie Johnson fan, huge Randy Houser fan, but like Ella just played for 65,000 in Kansas City with Morgan. You're like, damn, remember like how happy we were when like Jamie Johnson took you out to dinner and asked you on tour, or like
Jamie Johnson showing up at the house.
Or like, you know, when the first time me and Trey went out to like Kid Rock's house, and we're just like sitting there like watching Fox News, smoking cigars, and be like, that's Kid Rock, this is nuts, you know.
We're in the White House
now you see him out, and it's like, man, that's pretty wild.
It's Uncle Bob.
Yeah, dude. But I you know, and that's something I need to do better about myself. It's just like still cherishing those wins, the same, because they're just as cool. It's just at the time when we weren't exposed to anything like that, you know, it's like really valuing, I don't know why I couldn't say that word, valuing like every opportunity, you know, but it's just harder to do the more you do it, because it's just so, you become numb to it in town. It's almost like, you know, but yeah, I'll never forget those days.
Yeah, dude, they were good times. What advice would you have for like a kid moving to town, like a kid like in your position where you were playing the gigs back home, you're toying with the idea of the artist thing, like because you moved up here, what, you were 21, 22?
23, I believe.
23. Okay, so we moved. What year did you move? 2018.
Yeah, so I was 24.
So what year? So 2018.
I was 24 then.
What month? Because that's when I moved. I moved
up here first in October. I moved my stuff, and I hadn't graduated yet.
Oh, October of 2018.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I wasn't like up here till December. But
Okay, I was gonna say I moved here Halloween 2018, like right around that.
What a
So
day to move.
we moved here right around. Yeah, dude, I got thrown. I moved here. It was October 25th, so it was a little bit before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But that Friday night, I was hanging out at Whiskey Row, and I was gonna be working there, but I hadn't like ever bounced before or done anything like that. I told them I did on my application, but I didn't. And I was hanging out on the rooftop, and they just handed me a polo and a radio, and we're like, "You're watching the third floor tonight." I'm like, okay, here we are. Welcome to Nashville.
Wow.
But I think that time that we moved here, like just before COVID, we got to experience like two kind of the ending of one chapter in Nashville and the beginning of another through the chaos of COVID.
Yeah.
You know, like we got to see Revival at Tin Roof.
Yeah.
Which was
the best Tuesday nights.
Bro, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
And I loved that people always ask, they're like, did you like having Revival down the street? I'm like, fuck yeah, I did. I used to have Vinny Paolizzi, and because that was when I was doing them I would start at 6, and we'd go 6 to 11, and I would have Vinny and Halverson and guys like you and Job and Ryan. I'd have the Revival crew play my first round, and then Vinny would be able to be done and go down and start Revival.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to do it. Like, I loved the traffic that was on that street. I loved having Rob and Vinny and yourself and everybody down there, because that to me was the culture. And then we'd all go meet up at Red Door after.
Yeah.
You know, that was like part of the culture. And it's like when COVID hit, all that kind of changed.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember one of the first rounds I went to, and I was saying it to Aaron this weekend. We were up in Cincinnati, and Luke played She Got the Best of Me. I'm like, this was, I remember my first Revival that I went to. I moved on a Thursday, and I went on that following Tuesday. I went to Revival just on a whim. I was like, I got to go to this thing and see what it is. And fucking Combs hopped up and played. It was Big Rob, Channing Wilson, and Luke Combs sitting on the pew. They called themselves the 300 Pounders Club, and they got up there and played She Got the Best of Me, and that was my first Revival experience. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm in the right place. I remember getting home to my apartment in Spring Hill and at like 3 a.m. after a late night at Red Door and Losers and all that stuff, and just being like, holy shit, I moved to the right place. Like the moments that were part of Revival, were just incredible, dude.
And I miss it. You know,
I do too.
And what's weird is like, dude, I like nothing ever changed between my love for like those people that we hung out with. It's just again like, especially with the artistry, you know, like, but it's like, dude, I was, you know, like some of my best friends when we all moved to town, like like Ben Chapman, Nate Frederick, Matt Daniel, hanging out with Vinny and Colin and you know Gabe Lee at the rounds, and nothing's ever changed, you know, like. Dude, I'm still as big of a fan, if not a bigger fan now. And like, I just found out I got a cut with Tyler Halverson from a song we wrote in 21, you know, and it's like, dude, I'm a huge fan of
when
his.
he had just moved from Tyler David to Tyler Halverson. A lot of people don't know that. Tyler David was the kid that was going to Belmont, and then he came out as Tyler Halverson and just fucking, I love it.
Like, I'm a huge fan. I listen to his music, and knowing him, you know, when he texted and was like, hey, like, I cut this song, which I can't, it's a duet, but like, I was fired up because I'm a fan. I'm still a fan of Ben Chapman, dude. Like, when I'm driving down the road, like, I'm listening to Ben and Meg's stuff, and like, nothing ever changed there. I think, you know, a lot of that, honestly, like the breaking up of Revival for one, but also just like the artistry when they're phenomenal, incredible songwriters too, but like when mine became, I got to be songwriter, and like, I felt like that was kind of the end of Revival was kind of like the close proximity that we all had to each other, you know.
You'd see each other every Tuesday night,
at least, you know,
every
or I'm
Tuesday
crashing
night
on a couch 4 times a week, you know.
Hanging out at Neighbors.
Dude, I got nothing. Like, I freaking love their craft and their artistry. Like, all of them are so brilliant, you know, themselves. But it's been really fun to watch, you know. Even like, you know, the Opry debuts and things like that. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when we first moved to town, it was like,
we got to see that. I remember, and I don't tell the story too often, but my first like Raised Rowdy experience, they did a takeover of Whiskey Jam in 2018, and there was like Farron, Hannah Dasher, Ashlyn Kraft, Ryan Nelson, of course, played it. And I remember being in there, and I remember seeing like Nick and Sarah and the crew like across the room, and I remember being like intimidated, like, holy shit, that's the Raised Rowdy guys. And this is 2018. So this was years before Nick had moved to town. I had just moved out. I didn't even have In the Round yet. I was just bouncing on Broadway looking for a job in radio.
That's crazy.
And now to be like, it's a full circle to be putting on events at Winners and Losers and to be Nick's business partner in this thing. And it's like, but that time in town was so cool because that was like right as Hardy was blowing up. That was when Laney was still playing rounds. That was before the TikTok thing. That was when Combs was really starting to come into his own. When Morgan had just started really coming, like the way I talk was, and whiskey glasses. That was the big one at that time. Like seeing that time, and then COVID hits, and then from that point on, it's like we all kind of found ourselves. I know you were in the scene with Revival, and I was popping over there when I could and going to whiskey jams when I could and everything. But now to see, fast forward a few years, and it's like people on their calendars are like, oh shit, I got to write with Matt McKinney, or they're like, cool. Oh shit, I'm playing around with. I'm playing a Raised Rowdy event, or I'm doing a round with Burrill. I'm doing a round with Nikki T, and it's like I remember being on the consumer side, like new to town, and being like, holy shit! Like I'm going to all these events to network. Now people are coming to our events to network, or people are excited. You were excited. I'm sure you still do get excited when you have certain guys and girls on your calendar. But
for sure.
Now people are like, oh shit, I'm writing with Matt McKinney. Oh shit, I'm writing with Ella Langley. I'm writing with Trey Lewis. I'm writing with all. It's like we've all kind of made it to a spot in town that we didn't think we would get to.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking cool, dog.
It's a slow grind, but
cool. It is, man. And it's like we're still not at where we're gonna end up.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You and I are about to hit 6 years here.
Yeah.
6 years.
Crazy.
They call it a 10-year town, and we're 6 years. You've got a major pub deal with some cuts. You've got plaques and all this cool shit, and gotten to do things that you would only dream of. Same with me, dude.
Yeah, dude.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I was on a retreat with Carly Scott Collins a couple weeks ago.
Dude, I love Carly.
I was like, do you know Nikki T and Matt Burrill? And she's like, oh my God, I love those guys. And I'm like,
yeah, Carly,
you know,
KSC, bro.
Household recognition for the Raised Rowdy.
KSC
crew.
is like one of my favorites. And it's funny, her band, Jake Flaw, who is their guitar player, we met Jake at Red Door after one of our events, and he had a hat that said Creed saved my life.
That's cool.
And instantly I hit it off with him, like, bro, here's my number. You ever need anything? Like, he had just moved to town and he was looking for a gig. And then Carly Scott Collins, I filled in for Ward hosting Whiskey Jam one night, and Carly was there playing, and her and I hit it off there. She was like, hey, I'm looking for band people. I'm like, oh fuck, I just met Jake last week. Let's do this. And now Jake's been like her band
awesome.
leader and like getting to do all of that. Yeah, dude, she's
great, man.
And again, she's somebody where it's like it's starting to show, but she still is like figuring it out. So to get to go on a retreat with like an artist where you see the talent and they're still figuring it out, bro.
Yeah,
that's a great position to be in as a writer, as a veteran writer, like you're at right now.
Man,
that's a fun.
Fun
retreat.
Long ways from a veteran.
No, I would say you're there, bro. I would say you're there. You've been writing songs for a long time, and but to get to work. What other artists are you kind of excited about? Like young artists that you're going to be in the room with. Patrick Murphy's killing. I know he's been in town for a minute, and he's got a fun thing. And again, his moment hasn't really come yet either.
So many. Yeah, I'm almost afraid to list because I don't want to leave anybody out.
No, dude, go for it.
Dude, I'm loving Shane Prophet.
Bro,
Carly, obviously.
Shane is just the country ass motherfucker.
Dude, we've written some of my favorite songs I've ever been a part of.
What a good hang! I first got to really hang out with him in Key
West.
He's
become one of my best friends.
We bonded over a Crowned Head cigar. He's like, man, this cigar is pretty good. I'm like, there's more where that came from, Shane. Let's hang, bro.
Obviously, heavy in the Cooper Allen camp recently, and dude, he's just so himself. You know, like there's no way, especially the way he sells tickets. It's like. There's no way any radio programmer across America isn't looking at him and being like, he's going to be a big radio act one day. You know, just talented, knows who he is, knows what he wants us to say, still knows how to have fun, but like a phenomenal writer. He comes in every single night with like, I'm really passionate about this, and you know, we turn it into something. And I've done a few retreats with him. Dude, there's so many. Bryce Leatherwood.
Bryce Leatherwood, bro.
Big fan.
Love Bryce.
Known him since he was 14 years old, 15 years old.
Statesboro, Georgia. He was a Georgia Southern kid.
He was one. I was his youth group leader.
You were his
in
youth
our
group
small
leader?
town. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys went back that far.
Yeah, dude. And I was like walking up to Sony one day, and Tom's like, "I got someone I want you to meet." And I walk in. my real last name's Scott. I just go by McKinney, my middle name. And I was like, hey, man, Matt McKinney. He said, Matt Scott. And I kind of looked at him for a second, and I was like, oh, my gosh. The kid that won The Voice was I was a small group leader at Woodstock City Church. Like, that's crazy. Man, there's just so many. Obviously, like, still fired up. I mean, the Ella Train.
Yeah, dude.
Trey.
Yeah, Trey's got a lot of good shit coming.
Dalton Dover, Noah Hicks.
Yeah. Noah's got some cool stuff happening right now.
Shaylin. If I would have left her out, she would have been
Shaylin,
pissed,
bro. See, Shaylin, I haven't met her yet, but I see you sharing her stuff all the time. I dig it.
She's a star,
it's
man.
Cool, man.
I really think she's a star.
It's unique. It's different.
But she's somebody, like, started working with, probably a year and a half ago or so, and she's just become like family. She freaking works her ass off. Yeah. And obviously any songwriter loves an artist like that because you're always going to have a chance to win. Yeah. But great songwriter. Her performance is like next to none for female artists. Her vocal.
Yeah.
Just a grinder. Just signed her deal at Big Machine. And so obviously no matter what my part is in her career, like, I'm just thankful to play a small part, but I just love seeing all those people win. I mean, there's too many to freaking name. Obviously Patrick Murphy,
your golf buddy,
dude. He's my golf buddy, my drinking buddy, just my freaking goof around buddy. But it is funny, like, like, I feel like we've written some good songs, but it is more fun for me just like call that a buddy, like,
yeah.
We always say, like, we don't write bad together, but we've never written anything that's blown either one of our minds. But like, whenever I just want to, like, dick around and goof off, like, Patrick's my call. Like, you want to play some golf, like, pool day, whatever it is.
Come hang out at Cinco.
We just become good buddies, And, man, there's just so many artists. Hunter Girl, obviously.
Yeah.
Just, there's Drake Milligan. Now that I'm listing them, I'm feeling bad for leaving people out, so I'm just going to stop the list there. Okay. But, like,
Drake puts on a show, dude. We saw him at Country Concert up in Fort Laramie, which is we love all of our festivals and love all of our partners and stuff. Country Concert's kind of where Raise Rowdy started. And
yeah.
It's cool now to see that lineup has a lot of, like, our people that we kind of came up with.
Yeah.
Like, Ella played, Drake played the Camper Party, I think, last year. He might have played it this year, but he played last year and played this year. His show is so entertaining, bro.
Dude.
You talk about, like, a throwback that's just entertaining. You get, like, some Elvis vibes, but get, like, the Texas cowboy shit put together. He's just a showman.
Yeah.
He's a showman. He's a guy you want singing your songs.
And a great songwriter.
Seems like a nice guy, too. I haven't gotten to hang with him personally, but seems like a stand-up dude.
Yeah. I think, you can go through, and I feel like for the most part through that list, but just in general, I mean, there are artists that will legit tell you, like, I'm not the best writer, or I don't do this particularly well. But there are, like, especially on that list, like, dude, there's nothing better for a songwriter than an artist who comes in as like, this is what I want to say, or knows how to critique a lyric. And, like, I feel like all of them, but, like, I was just saying that because, like, Drake's a phenomenal songwriter. I've written a bunch of two ways with him that I come out on the other side, and I'm just like, man, like, he's just a great writer. Like, and there's a lot of people, like, that don't pan out and do become great writers, like you were talking about, even like, Jordan Walker and like Adam Craig, or like other artists that are going to be fine as songwriters. And, like, I hope Drake's a freaking superstar, but, like, he's always going to be a phenomenal writer, and most of those people that, I listed, obviously I hope they all pop off and go make tons of money and just invite me to the barbecue. But unfortunately it doesn't always work that way. But, Ella's another one. Like, Ella's kind of got that, like, Miranda thing to her, in a sense of, like, she's always going to land cuts. Like, when they're pitching songs that, she's a part of, like, she's still landing cuts. Like, she's obviously, we had 5 on the El King thing together, but, like,
it's crazy to say out loud.
She's always going to get cuts.
Yeah.
But she's just another great female writer. Carly, great writer, female witer, Shaylin. So it's fun to watch. Yeah, but it just makes makes it easier.
What's your favorite? List your top 3 favorite Trey Lewis songs you've gotten to be a part of that are either out or not out yet. Because you and Trey have been writing together that's like and a lot of people probably don't know the story of how you and Trey met. Shout out to Auburn, Alabama, and shout out to Revival, bro.
Top 3, man. Always You, because I know that's like him and Brooke's song too. But we kind of wrote that from like a real spot when I was going through like a time of my life where I thought that was my story.
Yeah, and that's a song that resonates with people. To write a wedding song like that, where it's a moment of people's lives.
The reception was unreal, to that. I didn't really expect to be that big. We wrote one, dude. It's not out yet, but God, it was without saying a word. We wrote it about an instant.
Is that
what a hell of a way to say goodbye without saying a word?
Yeah, was that the Alabama? Was
T-shirt.
that the Alabama T-shirt? Yeah, that was the night. That was Trey was playing that at Rounds for a long time. I'm sure that one's gonna get out at some point.
Then, man, I don't know. We've written so many.
I like Two Middle Fingers.
Two Middle Fingers is cool.
Two Middle Fingers is funny. Just the story of you guys writing that at Kid Rocks is just crazy. I remember Trey
still trying to get a feature on that.
I remember Trey sending that to me and being like, "Look what me and Skinny wrote at Bob's," and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is great."
And then we wrote one back in the day. Man, I don't know. For third sake, I'm just gonna say Here, maybe. Here's about to drop in
which
2
is
weeks.
the next. Yeah, that's the next one coming.
Or next Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually just a really messed up day. I'll never forget that
Really?
day.
How so?
I was riding to the right, and I called them. I was like, "Boys, like they got 65 blocked off. I don't know what's going on." And so I'm driving, and I finally get up to where you can see there was a wreck, and there was like 2 fire trucks and a policeman and like an ambulance. And just my luck, I kind of look over, and there's a decapitated, wasteless body that had died in the wreck. And I looked over and saw it, and dude, I just like
that freezes you,
dude. Heck yeah! So like the first like hour of the ride, I was just like, I'm sorry, like I need to step outside for a second. Dude, I mean, just seeing that, and I know it sounds like, oh yeah, we watch gory movies all the time, dude. When you see a lifeless body, like, and just being like, oh my god, like. And thinking, like, that could have been me if I was 2 minutes ahead, except I wear my seatbelt.
Yeah.
And, so I'll always remember the day we wrote that song, because, like, for the first hour, I'm just sitting there like, what did I – there's no way I actually just saw that. It's like I'm in therapy the next week. Like, all right, Nicole, I need you to hear me out on this.
All right, Nicole.
But, yeah, those are 3 of my favorite. I mean, there's probably so many that we haven't even –
I remember Music Man was an old one.
That was a good one, yeah.
That was a fun one. That used to be in the live show. That was in the early DDID tour
live
show.
Yeah.
And I've always loved your, like, I can hear a song and know that it's a Matt McKinney song by the amount of words that you fit in. Like, Give a Country Boy a Call, bro. Mm-hmm. Like, that one with the amount of words, and like there's like a swagger. Like, I can tell you grew up listening to not just country, not just worship stuff with your family background, but I can tell you listen to some Outkast growing up. Like, I can hear the Georgia, like the melting pot of music that is Georgia, and just music in general, but particularly like when we grew up in like the 90s and 2000s, with the way that you fit.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails. Oh, here. There we go again. Talking that shit.
Yes.
You said Outkast, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I was listening to Outkast on the way out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
ATLians. But that's more of a phrasing thing than, finding, and in some ways, like, some of my co-writers hate it. They're like, we don't need that many words, or like that phrasing's a little too busy for me. But thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because it's like you have like a stamp where I'm like, that's a McKinney song.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I like it. Nikki T and I say that all the time. We're like, we can hear the McKinney in this, and you hear that, cool. you can feel that with like Joy Beth has a style. Like Jordan Walker has a style. Adam Craig has a style. Like, when I hear Dalton Dover belting, I'm like, Adam Craig sang on this song, like sang on this right,
Yeah.
So,
cool.
What advice would you give your younger self that moves up here at 20, at 23, 24?
Dude, the biggest thing, and I know people that just moved here and they still do this, like grown men, but it's so easy to just want to be. And Ryan Nelson gave me the same conversation, the same talk when I was like 3 weeks into town, 4 weeks into town. But it's like, it's so easy to want to be on that wave, But it's more so like creating your own wave, finding your own class, trusting in your own class, and doing it with your class. And like, when I moved to town, dude, it was just so much like, oh yeah, I'm moving to town, and like, I want to be in the room with Ray Fulcher or or whoever, just these Georgia guys that like or John Langston, like people that I would go to like the Georgia Theater and watch, and the only reason I am where I am is because without even knowing it, just investing in the people around me who are in my class, and like you all get better together, and if you're fortunate, like God, who would have thought, like I wrote with like Vernon Brown, came up playing drums with like Brian, and when We Ride came out, it's like, bro, whoop, he's making hit money, like you just never know who's gonna pop, and that song popped, and he was in the right place at the right time. He invested where he was, or like even like some of the guys like who obviously had worked their ass off, but like the Rock and the Hard Place guys, like boom, like you never know, like they invested where they were, and like I was fortunate with like Trey and Ella and all these people, and Matt Daniel and Ben Chapman, and you just find your group, Tyler Halverson, and you write with them. And then it's funny now because it's like you literally look around, it's like, oh, Priscilla's playing the Opry tonight, Tyler Halverson's sold out somewhere in Texas, Ella's playing for 64,000
opening for Wallen
Morgan, and next thing you know, you just look around, you're like, where did all the years go? But like that would be my biggest advice to my younger self, was stop being caught up in who's going what and who's doing where, and just putting the blinders on and just being like, all right, well, start brick by brick and just start laying the foundation. And then eventually it did happen a lot quicker for, I think, a lot of us. But yeah, that'd probably be my biggest advice, because it's so easy to just be like, or like writers that haven't even moved to town, and they're like, oh yeah, I got my first #1 with blah. And it's like, dude, everybody's story is different. So like, there's another writer, I was talking to her the other day, and it's like she had been writing here professionally for 22 years, had her first #1. It's like, that might be her story, but she's enjoyed every single mile of it, and someone might move to town and have 5 #1s and then never have another hit. Someone might have one hit, take a break, and then you just pop off in 6 years. So it's really just like, you can't really compare your journey to anybody else's. And I think by doing that, you do yourself and your craft a disservice.
Absolutely, dude. So, absolutely, I agree with that 100%, dude. I'm glad we got to do this.
Dude, thanks for having me.
It's been a long time. Last time we did it was 2020, when we were just hanging out, playing kickball, playing Madden, trashing Ella and Trey's house in New Year's with all the stuff running everywhere, and
scrubbing it
and
8
watching
times.
and hanging out, singing songs around a campfire, or around a little fire pit. And now to see where everybody's at, and all of us fully doing this professionally, like what we're all doing, man. So I appreciate the hell out of you.
Well, I'm pumped for you guys, man. It's been just as fun watching y'all build this thing,
dude.
So, thanks for having me.
It's crazy, like the watching what, like the people that come up to us now and are like, man, I watched this podcast, man. I saw you guys at this event, man. How do the amount of people we get wanting to play now, where it used to be we had to run around and look for people to play,
right?
And now we're just getting hit up, and it's cool to be members in the community,
Absolutely.
Especially not being writers or musicians or artists. Like for Nick and I to get to be a part of this, from being guys that just love to go into concerts, and talking about it to people and putting our friends on people, now to get to do this, what we're doing, and it's cool, dude. So we appreciate the hell out of you, man.
Well, I love you guys. Thanks for having me.
We love you too, dude. Y'all be sure to look up our man Matt McKinney. It's Matt McKinney Writes, right?
On Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah. Okay, yeah. Look up our boy Matt McKinney and be on the lookout. So Here comes out with Trey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here comes out, and then what? Any others that are coming that we know of?
Dude, I find out a lot of times the week of.
Oh, really?
I'm sure I've got some. Yeah.
Just be like, you follow on Instagram. He'll be.
I'll post everything.
He'll be posting about all this stuff on stories or on the post or on the
Water in the Well. Cody Parks comes out.
Water in the Well. Fuck yeah, I love what they're doing, man. I love what the Dirty South is doing right now, man.
It's fun.
He's cranking. Him and Johnny and the boys, Possum King. They're cranking it up. I love. And Cody, you invite me every time you do the Filthy Friday. The next one that I'm in town, I promise I will be there, and I'm going to be rocking the fuck out, and it's going to be awesome. Whatever venue it's at, we will be at the next Filthy Friday. If we're not out of town doing something with Ray's Rowdy, we will be at the next Filthy Friday, because he always sends the text out, man, Filthy Friday this week. I'm like, fuck, I'm in Michigan. Fuck, I'm in Pittsburgh, or I'm in Ohio, or I'm somewhere, But y'all be sure to look up our boy Skinny Matt McKinney. McKinney. And shout out to our friends from Surfside Vodka. You had the iced tea. It's Matt McKinney approved.
Yeah.
He's very opinionated. He'll tell you if he doesn't like something. So he liked that. We're going to send him home with this 4-pack of lemonade right here.
Come on.
And send you home with some of them Orca cups as well. And I know we owe you one of those golf hats. They're at the house. If you're not doing anything, you want to swing over there on the way back. We can get you decked out. We got like 30 different kinds of hats right now in stock. Like our merchandise has just gone through the roof, which is wild. So
Y'all make sure and pick some up.
Yeah. Pick some up. Shop.raisedrowdy.com, and you get 15% off if you sign up for the mailing list to get the emails that Nikki T and I still don't send. So great mail list to be on because there's not a lot of mail going out. But anyway, I'll be sure to look up our boy Matt McKinney. You want to find out more about us, visit raisedrowdy.com and like, rate, subscribe, tell your mama and them. And shout out to the Scott family. I know mom and dad are going to be watching this. So we love you. And shout out to the Cincinnati Reds. Not having the greatest year, but Ellie De La Cruz is so much fun to watch. I'm sure your dad's having a ball. You still get the text about the baseball stats?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
What was today's?
Okay.
What was today's baseball stats? Shout out. What's your dad's first name again?
Brian.
Brian Scott is the baseball encyclopedia, and I wish he had. If I was doing like sports media and I could like bring like onboard sports podcast, I'd send your dad a microphone and a little thing to record it on, and he could do these every day because he is fantastic with
today's. Heck, I have to honor the general manager who in a few short months has acquired Luis Arias, Dylan Cease, and Tanner Scott, or in the other words, the 2-time reigning batting champion, plus the second pitcher in Padres history to throw a no-hitter, plus lefty 1.18 ERA. Turn out the lights, the men's party's over. The general manager of the year, 47-year-old AJ Preller. That was today's baseball take.
Wow. There he is. The baseball takes are great. We love that. And I'll say it for you. Go Braves. Aaron will get mad if I don't say go Braves. I hope you guys can do it. Philly's really fucking good this year.
Yeah,
but,
we got to win that wild card.
I know. That's where the Yankees are kind of at too. We're in a weird spot right now, but I'm hoping it just keeps going. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. For my man Matt McKinney, I'm Matt Burrill. This has been Outside the Round.